Your furnace is making a sound it never used to make, and the natural reaction is to look up which part is failing and what it costs. With most appliances, that works fine. A furnace is the exception. It burns gas inside a sealed metal chamber and pipes the exhaust out of the house, which is why a few of these sounds mean shut it off tonight rather than schedule a repair for next week. And here is the part that runs backwards from what you would guess. The loudest, most alarming noises are usually the cheapest to fix, while one of the genuinely dangerous ones is quiet enough to talk yourself out of. So the useful move is not matching the sound to a part. It is ranking the sound by how dangerous it is. Every furnace noise lands in one of three groups. There are the sounds that mean shut it off right now, the sounds that mean get a technician out this week, and the sounds that are either completely normal or a 5-minute fix you can do yourself. I have gone through manufacturer troubleshooting guides and heating technician service notes, so this is the plain version, the scary sorted from the routine with no sales pitch attached. One thing to understand first, because it is why a furnace gets its own rules. Inside the unit is a metal part called the heat exchanger where the gas flame burns. The exhaust from that flame carries carbon monoxide, and it is supposed to stay sealed in that chamber and vent safely outside. Carbon monoxide has no color and no smell, so a working carbon monoxide detector on the wall is the only thing that reliably catches it. Keep that in mind, because the first group of sounds is all about protecting that seal. Let me start with the noises that mean stop. The first is a loud bang or boom right when the furnace kicks on. People describe it like a small explosion in the basement, and that is basically what it is. Gas is supposed to light the instant it reaches the burners. When the burners are dirty, slightly out of position, or the gas and air mixture is off, it does not light right away. The gas keeps flowing and pooling for a second or two, and then all of it catches at once with a thud you can feel through the floor. Every one of those little blasts hammers the heat exchanger, and over time that stress can crack it. A crack is exactly how carbon monoxide escapes the chamber and gets into your air. If your furnace booms on startup, shut it off and call a heating technician. It is not a clean-it-yourself job, and it will not fix itself. The second stop sound is grinding, or a harsh metal on metal scraping. That is the blower wheel, the fan that pushes warm air through your ducts, dragging against its housing or running on a failed bearing. Sometimes a screw or a chunk of debris has dropped into the blower. Every second it runs, it chews the parts down and can burn out the entire motor. Switch the furnace off and get a technician out. Limping it through one more cold night is how a bearing job becomes a blower motor replacement. The third one is sneaky because it hides behind a sound that is usually harmless, a rattle. A light rattle on its own is almost always nothing, and we will get to that boring version shortly. But rattling or banging as the furnace heats and cools, paired with other warning signs, can mean the heat exchanger has cracked. Those other signs are what matter. A sharp chemical smell, almost like formaldehyde when the heat runs, soot or dark streaks near the vents, burner flames that burn lazy and yellow instead of crisp and blue, or people in the house getting flu-like headaches, dizziness, and nausea that ease the moment they step outside. A classic tell is a clicking or popping at the furnace itself as the blower shuts off, the cracked metal flexing while it cools. Plenty of homes get harmless duct ticking at shutdown too, so it is the smell, the soot, the yellow flames, and the headaches that separate a real problem from ordinary metal noise. If the rattle comes with any of those, shut the furnace down, open some windows, and call a professional. Repairing a cracked heat exchanger runs several hundred to a couple $1,000s, and on an older furnace, it usually pushes you toward replacing the whole unit. The last sound in this group is hissing paired with a smell. Natural gas has a rotten egg odor added to it on purpose, so a leak gives itself away. If you hear a hiss or the igniter clicking over and over while it never lights and you catch that rotten egg smell, treat it as a gas leak. Do not flip any switches or go hunting for the source. Get everyone out of the house and call your gas company from down the street. Now the second group, sounds that are not an emergency but should not sit for a month. Book a service visit this week and you are fine. A high-pitched squeal, screech, or squeak is almost always the blower. On most modern furnaces, that means the motor bearings are worn or dried out. On older belt-driven units, it is the rubber belt, slipping or cracked, and riding wrong in its pulley. A belt is a cheap part, lubricating bearings is a small service call, and even a full blower motor lands in the low hundreds. None of it is dangerous, but a grinding bearing eventually becomes that stop sound from the first group, so do not ignore it. A rhythmic thumping or slapping while the blower runs belongs here too. Usually something caught on the fan wheel or the wheel knocked out of balance. A steady electrical buzzing, humming, or whining is the next one. A quick buzz at the moment the furnace starts is normal. That is just the capacitor giving the blower the jolt it needs to spin up. A buzz that drones the whole time it runs is different. Usually a capacitor wearing out, a loose or aging transformer, or a motor starting to fail. The capacitor is a small, cheap part, but let a technician confirm which component it is instead of guessing. Repeated clicking with no heat fits here too, as long as there is no gas smell. That clicking is the igniter trying and failing to light the burners, usually because of a worn igniter, a flame sensor caked in grime, or dirty burners. With no gas odor, it is a routine service call, not an evacuation, and the parts are cheap. A tech just needs to pin down which one it is. And if you have a high-efficiency furnace, the kind with white plastic pipes running outside instead of a metal flue, a loud gurgling sound is worth a call. These units make water as they run, and that water drains away through a small line. Loud or constant gurgling means that drain line is clogging or the little condensate pump is failing. Left alone, it can back up and shut the furnace down, but it is a cheap, routine fix. Now the third group, which is where most people actually land. These sounds are either completely normal or something you can quiet yourself in a few minutes. Whistling is the big one, and it almost always comes down to choked airflow, usually a filthy air filter. When the filter clogs, the furnace strains to pull air through, and the air squeezing through the gaps whistles. Pull it out, and if it is gray or black instead of white, or you cannot see light through it, drop in a new one, and the whistle usually dies on the spot. The same restriction happens when too many room vents are closed, so walk the house and open them all, including the big return grill. A low, steady rumble usually traces back to that same clogged filter starving the system for air. Hissing is the one to read carefully because it sits in two groups at once. Paired with that rotten egg smell, it is the gas leak we already covered, so treat it that way every time. But a hiss with no smell at all is almost always air escaping through a gap in the ductwork, or simply the draft fan spinning up at the start of a cycle. That version is nothing to lose sleep over, and sealing an accessible duct gap with foil tape quiets it down. A faint rattle, the harmless version, is generally just the furnace access panel, or a loose cabinet screw vibrating, or a length of duct buzzing against the floor joist. Tighten the panel screws and strap the loose duct down, and it stops. The ticks, pops, and knocks from the ductwork are the same story. Sheet metal expands when hot air rushes in and contracts as it cools, so it ticks right after the furnace starts and again after it shuts off, which is normal. So as a single click when the system turns on and off, which is the thermostat relay, along with the soft hum or whir while it runs, which is just the blower doing its job. If your smart thermostat beeps, that is usually a filter reminder or a low battery, not the furnace at all. Since this is also about quieting a furnace that is just plain loud, here is the short version once the dangerous sounds are ruled out. Start with a fresh filter, then open every vent and return in the house and tighten the access panel. Strap loose ducts to the framing and slip rubber or foam pads where metal duct rests against wood. For air rush noise, wrapping the ducts in acoustic insulation helps, and a technician can add a flexible canvas connector or a larger return to bring the airspeed down. Most loud furnace complaints come back to a choked filter and rattling ducts, and both are cheap. Here is the quick money picture so nothing blindsides you. A filter is under $25 and a carbon monoxide detector sits in the same range, so neither of those is a reason to wait. A service call to diagnose runs roughly $85 to $200. A belt is a few dollars, a capacitor is a small part, and a blower motor lands somewhere from $400 to around $1,800 installed depending on the unit. The only true big-ticket items are a cracked heat exchanger or a furnace that has simply reached the end of its life. So you do not really need a technician to tell you which group you are in. The sound already told you which one. A boom on startup, a grinding blower, a rattle that comes with a chemical smell, or a hiss with rotten egg gas all mean shut it off and pick up the phone. A squeal, a constant buzz, a thump, or clicking with no heat can wait for a scheduled visit. A whistle, a low rumble, or ducts ticking as they cool just means change the filter and let it be. I have dropped links to a good furnace filter, a carbon monoxide detector, foil duct sealing tape, and duct insulation down in the description in case your sound is one of the easy ones.